The uphill climb continues for the Seattle Mariners. Up next, a 4-game set with the Oakland Athletics at T-Mobile Park. Let's get you set for it here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is Thursday, June 30th, 2022, and thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. I am your host, Ty Gonzalez, joined as always by my co-host, Colby Patnode. We cover the Mariners over at InsideTheMariners.com. For Fan Nation over on the Sports Illustrated Network, be sure to follow the show on Twitter at LO_Mariners. Follow Inside the Mariners at Inside Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, that's DANEGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. Be sure to also check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Control the Zone. We post 2 additional podcasts on there every single week. And if this is your first time joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, welcome to the show. If you like what you hear, give us a follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to this. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. The Mariners are beginning a 4-game set with the Oakland Athletics down at T-Mobile Park later tonight. We'll get you set for that series. We're also going to be talking about some draft scenarios, what we'd prefer the Mariners to do. We're also going to look at the standings and how far out the Mariners are from a playoff spot here as we near the halfway point in the season. But first, let's get into this series. 4-game set with the A's. This is a big opportunity for the Mariners right here. They are 36-41 after winning their 3rd consecutive series yesterday against the Orioles. The A's have been terrible. No way around it. They are 25-52. They are record-wise the worst team in the American League. Obviously, they have some talent, pitching-wise especially, but this is a very beatable team, a team that the Mariners swept down in Oakland. Quite frankly, didn't have much business sweeping them down in Oakland, but especially in that last game. But hey, we'll take it. And hopefully that success continues for the Mariners into this series because, Colby, I don't know about you, but I think the Mariners need to absolutely win 3 here. And I think it's a very real possibility that they could get a 4-game sweep. Opportunity is certainly there.
Yeah, it'll be a little difficult. They're going to have to go through Montes again, assuming he's still on the team by Sunday. Yeah, I think he will be, but you never know. Blackburn handled him just fine last time around. Didn't handle him so well the first time around, so we'll see. Oakland's certainly got some pitching. So, and the Mariners' offense is, let's say, suspect. There's also the looming suspensions. We know that's going to come down sometime in this series. So we don't know if they'll be without Jesse Winker or JP Crawford in this series because Jerry DiPoto has already said that they will stagger those suspensions. We don't know if Julio's going to miss a game or 2, but we don't. It's a little tough to know how full of a deck the Mariners will be working with. Can pitch, but again, you're facing Adrian Martinez, who's got stuff, but it's his 2nd career start, and Caprillion. Yep. He was good against you last time, but he's, and like I said, Blackburn, you kind of handled him last time. It feels like he's starting to kind of revert back to who he's always been, and then you have Montes, and you have to try and find a way to win that game. But the good news there is you'll be countering with Robbie Ray, who's been, sensational. So we'll see. On paper, at least, they should come away with 3 or 4, but suspensions and injuries, and I mean, you remember they had Ty France for the first 2 games last time they played Oakland. So we'll see how it goes. The Mariners pitching staff I feel pretty good about. Oakland's lineup is not formidable, so I feel like they should be able to hold them down long enough to take 3 or 4. But will the offense be able to pick up the slack a little bit? I guess we'll find out, but it's not going to be easy because we know that they are going to lose either J.P. Crawford or Jesse Winker at some point in this series.
Yeah, and potentially Julio. We'll see about that. Jerry DiPoto saying that they still haven't found anything that would suggest that Julio deserves to be suspended. So hopefully that is addressed in the appeal, and the suspension is either erased or it's limited to just one game instead of two, and they basically just treat it as an off day for Julio, which he probably needs anyway. I mean, he's a young guy; he's 21 years old, but everyone needs a break here and there, and he's played a lot here as of late. So, yeah, that would be probably the best possible outcome here, the most realistic outcome for Julio, and if you're going to have him miss a game over the next week or so, probably best to do it in this series rather than against the Padres and the Blue Jays, who are coming up next. And that's why this series is so important as well, because you got two coming up with the Padres down in San Diego. It's a weird 2-game road trip that they're going to be going starting on Monday on the 4th of July. And then they come back home and they get the Blue Jays for 4. And that's going to be a very, very difficult series for them. Obviously, we saw, how much they were just straight up outplayed in those first 2 games in Toronto, and that could be a series where the Mariners end up losing, 3 or 4, and hopefully no more than that. But yeah, any sort of protection they can give themselves heading into those series is crucial, and this is the way to do it, is against the A's, the worst team in the American League, like I said. So they need to win 3 or 4 here, and a sweep would be amazing. Plus that would get them to 40 and 41, just a game under 500. That's where they need to be. They need to get above 500 here before the All-Star break, and that would be huge for them, because I would assume that they are going to lose a little bit of ground in the after the San Diego and Toronto series. Just right now with the injuries, the suspensions, and just the overall talent disparity between them and the Padres and the Blue Jays suggests that they're probably not going to fare pretty well in those series. So, but hey, who knows? It's baseball, and the Mariners do some wild stuff sometimes. So maybe they end up taking 5 of those 6 games or something somehow. But most likely, you want to prepare for some failures in those series, and so to do that, you want to win You want to win at least 3 or 4 of these games.
Yeah, a sweep kind of buys them one disaster series. So a sweep would mean that they can lose 3 or 4 to Toronto and still be on pretty good track, as long as they split with San Diego. So yeah, it's you have this 4-game series. The next 10 games, it sure feels like you have to find a way to go 6 and 4 at least. And obviously, if you win all 4 against Oakland, you only need 2 out of 6 against 2 teams that are they're playing better than you, or at least they have throughout the course of the entire year. So we'll see how it goes. I think you have to win 3 or 4 here. I suspect we'll see Scott be pretty aggressive in trying to win tonight's game, because just having that first one in your back pocket increases your margin of error significantly. So, like I said, we'll see. A sweep is certainly possible. I never count on a sweep in a 4-game series. It's incredibly hard to do. But it certainly is possible. And obviously, if you're really looking to announce your presence with authority in the wild card chase, then you probably need to take all 4 of these.
Yeah, that would be the most beneficial outcome for the Seattle Mariners, to be sure. So like you mentioned, they're gonna need to keep climbing this hill and stay relevant in the wild card race here, because obviously the division that's a long lost hope there. So wild card is really the only focus here for the Mariners in terms of playoff aspirations, and so we're going to be looking at the standings, a little standings update for you, and kind of just look at some of the teams that they're going to need to leapfrog. They got 5 teams ahead of them right now. We'll be going over that in just a moment, but real quick, a reminder: this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by LinkedIn. As the sun comes out and small businesses are back in business, LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to grow your team. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people you want to interview faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day, just like you do here every day. We greatly appreciate your support. So let's take a look at the standings here for the Seattle Mariners and the wild card. Right now, they got 5 teams that they need to leapfrog, and but 3 of them. This is the good news here: is that 3 of them they're only a game and a half back of at most. That's the Angels, the Rangers, and the Chicago White Sox. Then they're about 4.5 games behind the Cleveland Guardians for the first team out, and then 5.5 back of the Tampa Bay Rays for the third and final wild card spot. And then the Red Sox and the Blue Jays, they're kind of neck and neck for the first and second wild card spot. So all these teams are pretty much clustered together, and no team is really distancing themselves from the rest of the pack, and one bad week for any of these teams could really, really help the Mariners. Obviously, the Mariners are also going to have to play pretty good baseball over that stretch as well. But, right now the Mariners have a pretty good opportunity, and, looking at their schedule just down the line over the next 3 months, they've gotten a lot of their most difficult series out of the way. The schedule is fairly easy. Obviously, they're going to have matchups against the Yankees. They got another matchup against the Blue Jays coming up. There's going to be difficult teams. They still have to play the Guardians twice this year. They're going to have to play the Rangers a bunch. They're going to have to play the Angels a bunch. They still got the White Sox one more time, and they got two more series against the Astros. But things are starting to look a little more favorably for the Mariners, at least schedule-wise. And right now, like I said, honestly, if they do what we were just talking about in this A's series, where they sweep or they at least win 3 or 4, they might very well surpass the White Sox, Angels, and Rangers this week, and that would certainly help with things. That means that they would only have to leapfrog 2 teams at that point, but it's still, very early. Teams are going to go up and down. It's going to happen. Things are, that's just how things naturally go. But the Mariners still need to dig themselves out of this hole. They were able to leapfrog the Orioles with their series win this past week. And so now it's just, it's just trying to get past each team one at a time. So Colby, looking at these standings, just kind of how do you feel about the team's chances right now, where they stand?
Well, thank you for finally allowing me to speak, but you kind of hogged all the attention there, buddy. But no, I think one of the things we're looking at here, when you look at these standings, nobody in this conversation that you just talked about is playing better baseball than the Seattle Mariners right now. The Red Sox have won 8 of their last 10, but they're not the team you're really chasing right now. You kind of look at who's playing well right now. Pretty much everybody in this discussion is 4-6 or 5-5, except for the Mariners, who are 7-3 in their last 10. So Mariners are kind of trending up, albeit slowly. The White Sox, we keep waiting for them to wake up and be the team we all thought they were going to be, but that team is horribly mismanaged by Tony La Russa. There are some issues on that roster. And it's just, they're dealing with some significant injuries at the moment. So they're a very vulnerable team right now. The Angels, we know who the Angels are. We know what they're about. They're garbage. They're going to fade. The Rangers, you're going to get to play a lot, and you've played pretty well against them. But you're going to have to continue to play that well. And then like you said, you get Cleveland for, I think, 7 games. And is Cleveland significantly more talented than Seattle? No, they're not. So none of these teams are uncatchable. And we talk about some of the rough patches in the Mariners, in the Mariners schedule where they have to play the Yankees, I think 6 times in 9 days or something like that. Yeah, that's brutal. But you know who has to play the Yankees a lot more than the Mariners? The Red Sox, the Blue Jays, the Rays. So those teams, kind of an issue. Cleveland has to play the White Sox. Cleveland has to play all those other teams too. And Seattle, by the way, still has plenty of games left against Detroit, Kansas City, and Oakland. Those are the 3 worst teams in baseball, at least in the American League. So there's a shot here. And typically, if we were 5 teams behind a playoff spot this late in the year, you're already looking at it going, well, it's going to take a minor miracle to make this happen. But it's not, because the day after tomorrow, you could literally be, 3 games back of being the first team out with 81 games to go. So the Mariners, despite it's not looking good, and they're clearly shouldn't be considered the favorites. And I'm not saying you should get your hopes up. I still think they're probably like a 10% chance to make the playoffs, but based on where they were even a week ago, that's pretty significant. And because they're going to play basically every team ahead of them, semi-substantial amount of times, they still can very much make some noise here. They got to get healthy. They got to add some talent, but they are not out of this by any stretch. And it's just one game at a time. Try and dig yourself out of the hole. And I guess the goal for today is to surpass the White Sox.
Yeah. So like you mentioned though, they got games against the A's, still plenty of games against the A's, including, this series coming up. They got 3 more against the Royals. They got 7 more against the Tigers. And, of course, that was, they were supposed to open the season against the Tigers before the lockout happened. And so they're going to be making those games up in the final series of the year in October. And then, they got 3 against the Washington Nationals as well, who are, one of the worst teams in baseball right now. And that's coming up pretty soon here. So, things, at least schedule-wise, are looking up for the Mariners. It's just, can they survive all these injuries? Can they survive all these suspensions? And can they just play, better baseball more consistently? And can they survive to, all the way to the trade deadline where they can get better? Because, they have the tools to get better. They have all the assets that they really need to get better and get significantly better and to add more probability to their roster. But it's just, are they going to be able to stay afloat long enough where that's going to matter? Where it still makes sense for them to do that. And I'm talking about not just adding guys that are going to help you in 2023 as well. I'm talking rentals, guys that are going to help you right now, that are going to help you get to the postseason this year, and that might not end up being, back with you next year. Because you're going to have to do some of that if you want to be able to compete here, just from a cost of acquisition standpoint and just a fit standpoint as well. So they need to keep on winning games here. Like we said, it would be preferable if they're above 500 by the time the All-Star break begins. And at that point, we'll see. They again, aside from the Padres and the Blue Jays series, the schedule lines up very well for them. They have plenty of opportunities to rattle off the games necessary to get above 500. But it's just, again, it's about the injuries, the suspensions, and just staying afloat. So we'll see if they're able to do that.
Avoid disaster. More or less.
Basically.
Don't lose 5 in a row. All right.
No.
Even in those tough stretches, you have to find a way to win 1 or 2 of those games just to keep your head above water. Because honestly, even if we get to the All-Star break, the All-Star game, and the standings look basically like they are now, where Seattle still has 5 teams to pass, but they can pass 3 or 4 of them with a good weekend series, then Seattle's probably still going to buy. Maybe not as aggressively on the rentals as we would like, but they're still going to buy. That's the case. And like you said, if they are around 500 and they're the first or second team out and they're only 3 games back, then I think that all the rentals are in play. It's just a matter of whether or not the Mariners feel it necessary to pay the extra that it costs to acquire rentals at the trade deadline.
So Next up, we're going to be talking a little bit about next month's draft. We've talked a lot about guys that we would like the Mariners to target with their first pick at number 21, but we're more so going to go broad with our discussion today and just kind of talk about how we want the Mariners to approach the draft next month in just a moment. But real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by the Sports Card Investor app. Now, Colby and I have run a few card giveaways in the past, and they've always done pretty well, so I assume we have quite a few investors and casual card collectors tuning into it. We have a great new app to tell you about, the Sports Card Investor app. It is a one-stop shop for all your card collecting needs. You can check the market activity and trends for over 630,000 cards, see all the eBay listings for them, and even make purchases right through the app. And with Julio Rodriguez adding to his AL Rookie of the Month bid with another home run yesterday, let's just say his cards have gone up even more. How much so? Well, you should download the Sports Card Investor app right now because it'll tell you exactly what you need to know. You can do it on your mobile device to find out. It's available for free on the Google Play and Apple App Stores, or you can go to sportscardinvestor.com/locked on. This episode of Locked On Mariners is also brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NHL playoffs and Major League Baseball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And betonline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. It is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline is where the game starts. So I'll just ask you this right out of the gate, Colby. How would you like the Mariners to approach the draft next month? Would you like them to maybe go underslot in the first round and try to get up, pick up another first round talent in the second? Obviously, that's easier said than done in theory, but would you just like them to go best player available? How would you like to see Jerry DiPoto and Scott Hunter and crew go after this?
Just get good players.
Mm.
It really is that simple. It's kind of interesting because the Mariners do have the extra comp round B pick this year, but they did lose their third round pick, so they have a little more money available to them in their draft pool than they would have had normally. But it's not significantly, because the difference between the comp round B and the third round pick is, I think it's $400,000 roughly. So it's not a huge amount, but it is something that they can play with if they so choose. This is an interesting draft class because really the college pitching, which Jerry and his crew have focused so heavily on, it's not great at the top. There are a lot of guys who are, I would say, belong somewhere in the 15 to 25 range, which is right where the Mariners pick. So. But there's no top 10 arms in this draft class, at least not from the college perspective. There's some decent depth in the college pitching ranks, but it'll be interesting to see where the Mariners want to go with that, because traditionally they've gone college and they've gone college pitcher. Now, it's not like it's been 10 college pitchers to one college position player. It's 2 college position players early. There's been a prep guy. There's been 3 college pitchers with their first picks. So it's pretty even mix out of the 6 picks. So it's not like a huge difference, but traditionally they like to go college pitching. I don't know if that's going to be an option for them this year. So you kind of look at what they want to do. I think this might be a good year to kind of do what they did with Evan White and Sam Carlson, which is you take a guy at 21 for slot or slightly below slot, and then you pay your second round pick like a first rounder to get him to sign with you. And then the rest of the draft, you kind of look for very specific role players and very specific, you're looking for very specific tools that a certain player has. Like that year they drafted Wyatt Mills and they really liked the numbers on his fastball and the funky delivery. They thought he was a, pretty safe bet to be a good reliever at the major league level. Didn't really work, but nothing in the 2017 draft has really worked as planned. So sometimes that happens. So I think they have a shot to do that here. One of the names they might do that with in terms of just, second round pick They take Thomas Harrington, who's the guy I like. In the first, they're probably going to save $600,000 or so, and then maybe they grab Washington's own J.R. Ritchie in the second round and pay him $2 million to forego college. So I think this is a decent year to do that. But if they're not going to do that, then I would just go best college bat available. Pretty decent class for up the middle college bats.
Yeah, I would like to see them go up the middle. That's obviously a pretty big weakness of the Mariners, especially guys that are a little more advanced, right? Because they got Edwin Arroyo, but he's still at least a couple years off. They got a couple of other prep guys that that are interesting, but they're still far away, right? So would like to maybe see a college bat that comes up the middle, preferably shortstop or second baseman. We've talked about quite a few guys, right? On that front. And so yeah, because it's just like that's kind of a big area of weakness. You obviously cannot have enough pitching, so any sort of pitching that you can get. I don't know if Justin Campbell is still an option there at 21, but I like Harrington as well. You've talked about him quite a bit here on the last couple of episodes that we've done talking about the draft. And then that's pretty much it. I mean, catcher would be nice because that's another area that you don't have really any organizational depth at, aside from Harry Ford, who may or may not end up being a catcher.
Right. By the way, there is a catcher that would make sense as an underslot first round guy. Mm-hmm. His name's Dalton Rushing.
Yeah,
he's left-handed hitter from Louisville. Mm-hmm. It's got some really good raw power, and scouts seem to think he'll actually be able to hit for some decent average. Good arm, kind of a fringe average catcher. Because he's a catcher, he has a shot to go higher than he probably should. But I think, I don't know if I would want them to spend a first round pick on Rushing to get, for example, J.R. Ritchie in the second round. But that is the way they could go, and it could make some sense. And I'm just using J.R. Ritchie because, he's a local kid, and he is probably a late first round talent.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that like J.R. Ritchie, obviously, especially for the Mariners, because of the local connection and everything. So that's certainly a name to keep an eye on. Obviously you like Zach Neto. I know you're going to be pounding the table for him. So, a lot of options there, a lot of options to fit what the Mariners are kind of lacking right now in the organization. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. They just need to get good players, like you said, no matter where they position at. So if they end up getting a third baseman or, some outfielders or whatever, doesn't matter. As long as they're getting really good value at those picks. I personally right now, just kind of seeing how the class is shaping up, I just like for them to go best player available. No need to necessarily go in with the intention of going under slot in round one. Plus, this year, I don't know. I haven't seen as many picks or players looking as concrete as they do in years past. It seems like the board's just kind of all over the place for a lot of folks now, even with the draft being less than a month away. So maybe you just see how the board falls and then just react accordingly.
Right. I think this is going to be a draft that is going to surprise a lot of people, and traditionally those surprises mean good things for teams like Seattle. I mean, one of the drafts that comes to mind is Jerry DiPoto's first draft, where he's somehow able to land Kyle Lewis at pick 11 when most people assumed Kyle Lewis was going in the top 5. So this seems like one of those drafts where money's going to come into play a lot more than people think, because it's not a great top end draft, particularly in college pitching, which is the safest way to go. A lot of prep guys early. So I think you're going to see quite a few money savers, and a lot of teams try and take advantage of the kind of the bulk of this draft, where there are a lot of really interesting talent. So I think this draft has the possibility. I wouldn't be shocked if, I don't know, if Justin Crawford fell to the Mariners randomly, and then they have to make a decision on that. I wouldn't be shocked. Or Daniel Susak. I think enough teams are going to save money that a pretty good player, that there's a good chance that a top 10 value player somehow sitting there at 19, 20, 21.
Yeah, and that always kind of tends to happen every year, right? There's always a couple of guys that were projected to go top 5, top 10 that end up falling into the 15 range, 20 range, even, second
Somehow
round
always to the
territory.
Dodgers.
Somehow always to the Dodgers, of course, yeah.
Yeah,
Yankees,
it happens.
yeah.
It happens, right? The Rays always take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So it happens, and it's what makes the Major League Baseball draft a lot more fun in some cases than other drafts, but also because they're so far away, a lot more difficult to follow and a lot more difficult to really buy into getting super excited about. So
yeah, the draft is never going to be
no.
Yeah, the draft is never going to be for casual viewers. It's something that because it's just like the thing with like the NFL draft, right? Is like, all right, first round or first overall pick is usually going to be a quarterback in most cases. That guy is going to help that team and potentially even change the face of that franchise in general. And then even
Charles
with the NBA
Cross
as well,
is going to be the left tackle for the Seahawks.
Yeah,
you're going to see him week 1. You're going to see you're going to see Chet Holmgren on opening night, like right away. Like you're not going to see nobody that gets drafted this year is going to make their debut before the end of the year, except for maybe Ben Joyce, who's a reliever. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is like it's only relievers that actually, in very rare cases, or if you're Mike Leake, right, that are going to make their debuts like right away. And so
I think, like the speed at which some like Logan Gilbert was an incredibly fast riser to the big leagues. And he still took, the COVID year really doesn't count. But he still took, 2-3 years to get to the big leagues as a college guy. It takes a while, man.
Yeah. It takes a really, really long time for a lot of guys, even guys that, come out very advanced looking. It takes them a while.
Mark Appel.
Yeah. By the way, good for Mark Appel. Last night got his first career major league strikeout. Good for him. He's back in the league, back with, and he's with Phillies now. Really cool story.
Yeah.
All right. So that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby, Pat Note, I'm Ty Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow Inside the Mariners at Inside Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, that's DANEGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. And thank you again for making us your first listen of the day, just like you do here every day. Now make your second listen of the day. Locked On MLB Prospects host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts, just like us. And with that, have a beautiful baseball day, and we will see you tomorrow. Peace.